Every time I wake up, my first thought is to go out on my porch and have time for myself. The taste of the fresh air and the sounds of the birds everywhere. I always wake up at exactly 5 a.m. in the morning. I usually sit on my chair placed on my porch. And then I stare out into the forest across the street. I usually see deer roaming the woods, birds sitting on the branches, and of course the cold breeze. But I had an experience so terrifying that it scared me for life. I woke up one morning at exactly 5 a.m. After getting ready for the day, I of course went out to my porch and sat down. I stared out into the forest, watching all different kinds of forest wildlife. I seen deers, birds, stray cats, you name it. I looked down for a few seconds, reflecting on what happened yesterday, and then I looked up, seeming completely ready for the rest of the day. But I noticed something odd. The birds seemed to have stopped chirping. All the animals vanished from the area. I looked around in disbelief as I came to a conclusion that a predator was nearby. But I haven't even heard sounds coming from the forest. I decided to walk inside to pack up my things for my job. As I put my cell phone in my pocket, I heard a quiet tap on my window. I didn't mind it much, since I couldn't be late. As I walked to my vehicle, I heard the leaves move around in the distance. I saw a small head pop out of a small tree, and then pop back in. I haven't ever entered my fucking vehicle so quick in my life. I put my backpack on the seat near me, and I drove away. I couldn't stop looking at my mirror, making sure nobody was following me. I was shaking as I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. The fact that it looked like a human head only made me fear more. A wave of relief washed over me as I drove downtown. Civilians walked down the streets. I eventually arrived at the fast food place, which is my job. I work as a janitor in that place. I clocked in, and I walked to the janitor's closet. My supervisor told me that I had to put more hours in. I accepted it, and I grabbed the cleaning supplies. The customers are crazy at eating. They would leave crumbs on the table. Hell, even on the seat itself. I realized there weren't much customers coming in. So I just did my thing. A couple of hours later, I was coming home at sunset. Once I walked inside, I thrown my backpack on the floor and walked upstairs. I walked inside my bedroom and closed my door. I opened the window, and I watched the woods once again. Fortunately, the animals were actually here this time. The chirping were loud as ever. I heard noises coming from downstairs. I stared at my door, and then my door opened. I stared at the deformed head hanging above my door. Its entire head was a flesh texture. Its dark eyes were wide opened. The creature put its hand on the door frame. I was literally paralyzed with fear. I just stared at it in its eyes. My bedroom light was off too. The only thing lighting up my room is the window shining the now dimming sunlight. It just stared at me. It didn't even move. I stared at it back. I slowly put my body outside the window, making sure it doesn't see my movements. The thing put another fleshy hand on the door frame. Eventually I threw myself off the roof. It wasn't a high drop, so I wasn't hurt. I ran towards my vehicle and I drove away. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and I called 911. I told them the situation, but they thought it was all a joke. They said,
"Sir, we get hundreds of prank calls all day."
And then they just hanged up. I decided to sleep in my car for the night. I woke up. It was about midday. I put some gas in my vehicle, and I drove back to my home. I packed my shit and left for good. I made sure I had everything. As I was pulling out of the driveway, I saw the creature staring at me with the most terrifying face I had seen in my life, and it was in my bedroom. I stomped my foot on the gas pedal, and I exited my street. Now I don't know where I will go next, but I know for sure I'm not gonna live near the woods anymore. Three years later, I still see articles of the same situation I had in that same area. Now I think I'm too terrified to even spend a minute on my porch,